the people who were in the reform movement knew, what was happening, what happened there. And that, we couldn't let that go. We couldn't be intimidated, because our brothers were assassinated. And I think some of the old guard thought, well, that they probably thought, well, they asked for it. That these guys knew that what they're in for, and they bit off too much, and so that I think the community, activist community, because of the work that Silme and Jean did outside of just the cannery workers, who built these relationships with other community groups, all got together. And that some of us who were involved in the union, that's as far as to a small degree, decided that that something needed to be done, and so that during that period, I mean, it was based upon all the legal struggles and how we're going to approach that. Really came to the forefront. I mean, really trying to do the analysis of what really happened, and based upon whether Marcos had anything to do with it, based upon the political work that both Jean and Silme were doing. Did it reach all the way up to Ferdinand Marcos? Did it reach all the way up to the Secretary of State and the President of the United States in collusion with making sure that we keep those bases in the Philippines? Because of the resolution that Jean Viernes made in Honolulu at the ILWU convention of sending a investigation team of the labor movement in the Philippines. And so whether that disturbed Marcos enough to put the word out to Tony Barroso or whoever, that these guys are a pain in the ass, that we need to do something about these guys, who knows? But it's been proven through the civil suit that it did happen. So regardless, those were things that were happening during that period. I mean, it was just a bunch of things that were going on in terms of the legal remedies of that, the takeover of the union, and some of these old guard not necessarily understanding that this is pretty serious stuff. You just killed 2 union officials, which is something that these guys took lightly, which now they're paying for. And they then afterwards that they started turning on themselves. I mean, when you start when you think you can just do something like that in this country, you might be able to get away with it in in the Philippines, but you can't get you can't get away with it here. And based upon our legal system, they didn't, and so they paid for it. And in the long run, in terms of being able to continue on, with the work, the union's still here, and that the workers are still working up there. Now the times have changed in terms of the majority of workers aren't Filipino anymore, but the work and the industry is still surviving, and it has nothing, and there is no criminal element or anything as far as any sort of problems with any of the dispatches or anything. Everything's above board. And so during that period, though, I mean, that was a transition in which the reform movement took its place within the hierarchy of the union, and was able to withstand that the murders of its leaders. And also we were under threat of the international under receivership, but we were able to beat that back, because once you're under receivership from the international, they take it over. They essentially take over the local, and but we were able to beat that back by making sure that we had to, based upon the Alaska Cannery Workers Association, the ACWA, and having that organized through that, and putting in place the components of having people on the board, the leadership of the board taking over. So we were able to transition, because of that, to working with the current president, who was actually indicted and sent to prison, and we were able to continue on with the local, still servicing and sending workers up to Alaska. At a point in time, though, after that, of course, 5 years after that, we merged with the Inlandboatmen's Union, which is still, it's the Marine Division of the International Longshore Union, so we're still part of the ILWU. But, during that period right after the murders was a very delicate time. But, I mean, there was a lot of things going on in terms of the lawsuit, the transition within the union. And then, all this other stuff that was going on within, within that element who, decided that that's what they were going to do was knock off the two union leaders.